I'm not the biggest fan of Elon Musk. Now, that's just not to say I don't like what he's doing, but okay, it seems to be transactional for him. If Ayn Rand were alive today, he'd probably be the character basis for one of her books, which is fine. I don't have to love the guy. I do love the fact that he wants to bring free speech back to Twitter, a platform that I thought was the free speech wing of the free speech party. But over the years, the Democrats said, no, we can't let it be that. It has to be subject to approval and algorithms and all these other things. And now that Elon Musk's greatest crime is that he's going to allow free speech back on Twitter, the left-wing media is losing its mind. Play Brian Stelter.
Look, who knows? I think that's an example of a broader question for Twitter, which is, if you get invited to something where there are no rules, where there is total freedom for everybody, do you actually want to go to that party? Or are you going to decide to stay home? And that's a question for Twitter users. Some Twitter users might love the idea that there's going to be absolutely no moderation and no rules at all. Others might not want to be anywhere near that. Am I crazy, Matt?
No, you're right. And what happens to the advertising? I mean, if there's no moderation or little moderation, do the advertisers stay away? What does that do to the business prospects for Twitter itself?
I think that's very much...
Okay, let me bring in Carl Szabo, Vice President and General Counsel for NetChoice. How you doing, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Did you ever think, we've watched, and this is going to be a lot of what I do in the monologue, we saw the authoritarianism of the left in the lockdowns. We see their anger towards free speech. It seems like every chance we give them to expose themselves for being anything but liberal or liberty-minded, they take it.
It's been amazing to watch kind of the 180. You almost get whiplash on it. I remember growing up, the Democratic Party was the party of free speech. It was the party of government, get out of my way. I'm going to speak my rights and nothing else shall stop me. But you've seen this almost lockdown mentality from many on the left where they've realized, you know what? Now that we control some of the avenues of power, we want to leverage that. And what we are seeing today with Elon Musk and this move with Twitter, you mentioned Ayn Rand. I would also look at Adam Smith. This is the free markets working today. You see Elon Musk going and making an acquisition and developing a platform and changing the rules in the way that he wants it to be done. Much in the same way that CNN doesn't necessarily have a lot of right-wing, right-of-center voices. They have preferably left of center, left-wing. Same thing with MSNBC. Private business, they choose their content moderation policies. So now Elon Musk is taking over Twitter, and he's going to institute his content moderation policies. If it's okay for CNN to have an entire hour for Brian Stelter, it's okay for Elon Musk to operate a private business in the way that he sees fit.
You know what's amazing, though, is that I thought that was one of the things that we agreed on. That even if we disliked each other's views of how to accomplish things, that free speech was foundational to the United States. And that this is the most democratized form of communication where any human being, not a journalism professional, not somebody with a degree from the Columbia School of Journalism, or who got to know the denizens of the Upper West Side of Manhattan or Washington, D.C., were able to get out there. It's almost like they don't like the idea of people unapproved becoming somewhat effective and influential.
I think we've seen the Democratic Party kind of move away from being the party of the working person. I think that's kind of endemic in the entire administration right now. And this just kind of exemplifies it. Look, you have newspapers, legacy media, that definitely leans left, if not far left. It's unlikely that the New York Times is going to write a nice story about Orrin Hatch or any Republican. It's unlikely that you're going to see similar treatment from the Washington Post. So what did social media do? It actually gave conservatives a great opportunity to reach the people directly, to go out there and be able to engage and show how amazing their ideas are, and also at the same time show some alternatives to what the common left of center narrative is. And so what you're seeing is content moderation. Now, some platforms want to have higher content moderation policies. Some want to have lower ones. But at the end of the day, it is the right of that private business, not the government. And that's what we're seeing today. We're
But see,
seeing
but
government
let me jump in.
efforts to take over.
For years, they were like they smugly repeat it's a private business, they can do what they want. Now all of a sudden it's not a private business and they can do what they want. This kind of you know what's kind of funny about what's happening here? Maybe it's crazy because my first love is radio. Ronald Reagan got rid of the fairness doctrine, and even to the people thought like, oh my God, that's going to be more liberal voices criticizing you, but really it paved the road for conservative-minded talk radio after conservatives were purged from newsrooms, from TV networks, basically shoved into a corner, and they found this little spot of radio when the AM band was dying a miserable death, and then it was fine and dandy until it became effective. Then you saw people on the left, see, this is what happens when you get rid of the fairness doctrine. In other words, if you're not in control, if you're not, if it's not an approval process, free speech is great as long as you're saying what they want to hear. It reminds me of the fight over the early days of talk radio.
That's exactly right. I mean, the fairness doctrine, when President Reagan got rid of it, that's what gave Rush Limbaugh the opportunity to actually become Rush Limbaugh. And he actually saved AM radio. And you're seeing statements not only from the pundits on places like CNN and MSNBC. You saw President Obama come out the other day and talk about the dangers of free speech. He said, I'm a First Amendment believer and I believe in free speech, but there's certain speech I don't like. Disinformation. What is disinformation? Is it you can keep your doctor if you want? Would that be disinformation? I don't know. Who's going to be the arbiter of that? And to me, it needs to be the private business. We cannot allow government to control social media. We need to let the free market operate. And that's what we're seeing with Elon Musk and Twitter.
Well, it seems like they want social media and the internet to be the new safe space, right? Where you aren't allowed to upset anybody. You aren't allowed to say anything that ruffles any feathers. But that's not free speech. Look, free speech it's messy, right? I mean, it is. And if you think about from the Constitution to the advent of, let's say, hip hop, everything in between comes from free speech.
That's exactly right. So what I'm doing day in and day out here in Washington, D.C. is I'm fighting against government efforts to seize control of these private businesses, to lean on them, to make them host the type of speech that the administration, that the White House, that the liberals want to host. And this is going to require all of us to push back on a lot of, it might sound like a great idea, but any attempt by the government to seize more power is only going to mean more control over these private businesses and more leverage over what Elon Musk is trying to do with Twitter.
I think it's kind of transactional for him. I don't know. Maybe he is walking around with a copy of Atlas Shrugged in his back pocket or The Fountainhead or something, right? Because he does seem like a character in a Rand novel. But as long as we get free speech, I don't care what his real motivation is. Some of these people on the left have gone too far by saying, you know what, any dissenting ideas are not welcome.